All right. Hey, everyone out there, all you future diplomats and international relations experts, welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going in deep with Immanuel Kant,
Yeah, you can't really get around him if you're into international relations.
especially for anyone prepping for the UPSC exam, the International Relations optional paper.
Oh, yeah, definitely a must read. His ideas are like foundational for understanding the ethics and moral side of international relations.
We're going to be pulling some really key stuff from some academic texts on Kant's life and thought. They're dense, but we'll
Yeah,
make it fun.
don't worry. We'll make sure it's clear.
And you know what?
Yeah.
There are some really surprising things about Kant's life, like how incredibly regimented it was.
People actually set their clocks by his daily walk. It was that precise.
No kidding. Okay, let's go back in time. 18th century Germany. The Enlightenment is in full swing.
Hmm.
But it was different in Germany, right?
Sure. You had revolutions and all that upheaval in other places, but Germany was more about like cultural and national unity.
So that's the context where Kant was coming from. And there's this amazing quote from him that our source material highlights. He says the Enlightenment is liberation from self-imposed tutelage.
Wow.
Powerful stuff. He's basically telling people to think for themselves, use their own reason.
That's Kant in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Reason, individual worth, morality as the basis of politics.
And now we've got this super smart guy with a meticulously planned life, wakes up at 5 a.m., works in his nightcap, never misses that daily walk. You'd think he was a total loner.
Well, here's a twist. Kant was a huge fan of dinner parties. Loved having people over. Big discussions, lively debates.
Wait, really? He loved being social, too.
He did.
Wow. So maybe his life was like her philosophy full of these seeming contradictions, routine but also connection, a scientist who put reason first. Which brings us to one of his most revolutionary ideas, the Copernican revolution in philosophy.
It totally flipped the script.
Mm.
Before Kant, philosophers argued about whether we understand the world through pure reason or through our experiences. Kant said, nope, it's neither.
So what was his take then?
This is going to blow your mind. Kant said our minds don't just discover the laws of nature, they actually create them.
Hold on. Our minds make the rules of the world.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You have a cookie cutter and some dough. The world is the dough, and our minds are the cutter. The shapes we cut out, that's how we experience reality.
That's a great way to put it. But what does this mean for us? Especially when we're thinking about, say, international relations.
It really messes with the idea of an objective truth, you know? If our minds shape how we see the world, how do we even agree on anything? International law, treaties. It's still a hot topic even today, especially with so many different views and ideologies out there.
Yeah, it's like if everyone's reality is a bit different, how can we even talk about things like human rights or global laws?
That's where Kant's idea of morality comes in. It's not just about how we see things, it's about, a shared way to act.
Right, right.
Our source material points out something really important about Kant's view on this.
What's that?
Actions are only moral if they're done out of duty, not some personal desire.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not about maximizing happiness, like utilitarianism.
Right, exactly. For Kant, it's all about the intention, Sticking to a moral duty, that's what matters.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But how does that translate to international relations? It's a whole different playing field.
It's about finding those universal principles that go beyond, like, individual countries' goals.
Okay, yeah.
Think about his famous categorical imperative. It's like a golden rule, but for global ethics. Act as if your actions could become, like, a universal law.
Oh, that's a good way to think about it. So for our listeners prepping for the UPSC, how would this apply? Say if you're analyzing a conflict zone, like Syria, for example.
You'd have to ask, are our interventions in a place like Syria driven by a sense of duty to those universal moral principles? Or are we acting out of self-interest?
Right.
Could our actions be justified if everyone did the same thing in similar situations around the world?
Tough question, but a really important one. Before we get too deep in all of that, I want to come back to Kant, the man himself, for a moment. Our source mentions he was pretty influenced by the French Revolution.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes you think, how do these historical events shape a philosopher's thinking?
It's fascinating. The French Revolution, with its ideals of liberty, equality, and all of that, it really resonated with Kant's emphasis on individual worth.
Makes sense.
But you have to remember, he was also a product of the German Enlightenment.
Right. Different vibe.
He and others like Goethe, they saw the need for progress, but they were cautious about the chaos that can come with resolutions.
So inspired by the ideals, but also aware of the potential downsides.
Yeah, exactly. He had these strong moral beliefs, but he also understood that human nature is complex, you know? Turning those beliefs into political reality is a challenge.
That brings us back to his focus on reason and the need for international law, cooperation based on shared principles. He saw this as the path to lasting peace, right?
Absolutely. He believed that a world order based on individual rights, mutual respect, and the rule of law, it wasn't just a dream. For him, it was the foundation for humans to progress.
That's a powerful idea. And his vision of a world where reason guides us, well, it feels pretty relevant today, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Especially with things like climate change, conflicts all over, and economic inequality.
Big issues. And for aspiring diplomats, those getting ready for the UPSC exam, understanding Kant is key.
It's like a framework, right?
Yeah, a way to analyze these complicated global situations, build arguments.
But it's not just about the exam, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about how we see the world, our responsibilities to each other. It's about sticking to moral principles even when it's tough, trying to build a better world.
It goes way beyond just international relations. It's something we can all take away from Kant.
I completely agree. But we're not done with Kant just yet. There's another layer to his thought that we need to explore. This concept of transcendental idealism.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It sounds complicated.
It is. But it's essential if you want to grasp his views on knowledge and, what's real.
Okay, lay it on me.
Remember how we talked about Kant's Copernican revolution? The idea that our minds actively shape how we see the world?
Yeah, the cookie cutter in the dough.
Right. Well, transcendental idealism takes it a step further.
Okay, I'm listening.
Kant said, we can only really know the world as it appears to us, like filtered through our own perception.
Right.
The thing in itself, that ultimate reality behind those appearances, it stays a mystery.
So, we're always looking through a lens we can't take off.
Yeah, exactly. We can't fully grasp objective truth because our minds are shaping everything we see. And for those taking the UPSC, this is key. Kant's saying, hey, we try to understand the world, but we have to admit our perspective is limited.
Yeah.
It's about being humble and realizing our knowledge is always a work in progress.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? All this effort to understand the world, and there's always something we just can't quite grasp.
It is humbling, yeah.
It changes how we approach, well, everything, from science to diplomacy.
Right, and it encourages us to be more open, to really listen to different points of view. Our understanding is always growing and changing.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about how our minds shape reality. But how does this transcendental idealism connect with Kant's ideas about morality?
It shows us that morality doesn't just exist out there in the world waiting to be discovered.
It's not like a fact of nature.
Nope, and it's not dictated by some authority or cultural norms either. Kant says morality comes from reason itself.
It's more like a principle then.
Exactly. And this brings us to another important distinction that our source brings up. The difference between moral motives and legal motives.
Ooh, okay, what's that about?
For Kant, a truly moral action has to be done out of a sense of duty, a commitment to the moral law.
I see.
Legal motives, on the other hand, are about following the rules, avoiding punishment.
So a country might sign a treaty just to avoid sanctions. They're following the law.
But their heart's not really in it, right?
Right. Their motives aren't truly moral, according to Kant.
Exactly. The intention is what gives an action moral worth. It's not enough to just follow the rules blindly. True morality, it comes from within.
Wow. This is so crucial for anyone studying international relations. It's not just about laws and treaties.
It's about the people making those laws.
We need leaders who are driven by a sense of duty, a real commitment to justice and human dignity.
That's why engaging with Kant's ideas is so valuable for anyone prepping for the UPSC, for example. It gives them a framework to think critically about global issues.
Not just in terms of is this legal, but also, is this the right thing to do?
Exactly.
So let's wrap up our deep dive here. Kant was a philosopher who totally changed how we think about knowledge in the world around us. He put duty and moral motivation front and center, and he challenged us to work towards a global community based on reason and universal moral principles.
His ideas might seem complicated, but they're so relevant even today, especially in the world of international relations.
And for those studying for the UPSC, Remember, Kant's work goes way beyond the exam.
It's about shaping how you see the world, how you understand your role in it.
It's about being a thoughtful and responsible leader.
Exactly. Making a difference.
Before we go, I want to share this incredible quote from Kant that really stayed with me. Our source mentions him saying, "Two things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe, the more often and steadily we reflect upon them. The starry heavens above me and the moral law within me."
Beautiful, isn't it?
It really gets to the heart of Kant's philosophy, the vastness of the universe and our own capacity for reason, for moral judgment.
It's all connected.
So, as you continue on your UPSC journey, remember to look up at the stars, but also look inward, at your own moral compass. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to bring Kant's vision of a more just world a little bit closer.
That's a goal worth striving for sure.
And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive into the mind of Immanuel Kant. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep making a positive impact on the world.